But next tonight, Beethoven's epic, iconoclastic Eroica, his third symphony. A symphony that eclipsed every other that came before it in size and ambition. It marked a complete sea change in music and established Beethoven as a romantic genius for all time. So we're talking about a seriously important piece of music here.
Well, we think, and it's an extremely serious piece of music, quite rightly, but when they first heard it in 1805, most of the audience were completely baffled by it. It was hugely long, it was very complicated. Somebody described it up as a piling up of colossal ideas. It was just impossible to make sense of. You have to imagine that this is an audience who had grown up on symphonies by Mozart and Haydn, very elegant, beautiful works. The first movement of the Eroica is longer than some complete Haydn symphonies, so it's just a sort of genre-busting exercise.
And it's a symphony that is genuinely revolutionary. I mean, not just in terms of shattering the old styles, but also in the scale of its ambition, turning music into a personal and political drama.
And this is a man who was always, wasn't he? I mean, deeply connected to what was going on politically.
Yeah, he was a great believer, an ardent fan of Napoleon, in fact, and he very much upheld the French ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity.
He had originally wanted sort of Napoleon to be the hero of this work. It's called a heroic symphony. That all went slightly awry.
It did, because he declared himself emperor, and...
That's Napoleon, by the way, not Beethoven, who should have declared himself emperor, but Napoleon did declare himself emperor and was sort of marauding across Europe.
Exactly, and Beethoven flew into a blind rage and in fact tore out the dedication page and finally inscribed it to the memory of the great man.
And worth remembering, I suppose, that this is written against the background of increasing deafness, and just a few years before he wrote this symphony, sort of 1802-ish, he writes this very famous letter, the Heiligenstadt Testament, which is where Beethoven suddenly realises he will be profoundly deaf for the rest of his life. It's essentially a sort of suicide note written to his brothers. He never sends it, but it's a heartbreaking letter where he's just suddenly facing a wall and has to push through it.
Yeah, it's extremely sad, and in fact very brave of Beethoven as he comes to terms with an affliction that some would argue that really as a composer he cannot afford to have.